recording us before we see it's recording us. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation on Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sarah Jane, and I am delighted to be joined by my two co-hosts, Patricia and David. Welcome, Patricia and David.
Hi there. Lovely to be here.
And we are delighted to be joined for the programme this evening by Tommy Stoffel and Bryan Bernard. Get it right. Thank you, both of you, so much. And our topic for this evening is presence without chatter. So, Tommy and Bryan, I don't mind which one of you wants to go first. I'm seeing Bryan right next to me in the list of videos, but because this is about presence with chatter, you are our guests. I'd like you to, and we ask our guests to choose the topic. So I'd like you both to share a little of your story and if you like, how you two got together and why this is so important, because I know there's a book involved in this. So Bryan, should we come to you first?
Well, Tommy created the chatter relaxer, so I think it'd be fitting if Tommy started, since he created this baby.
Right, Tommy, over to you.
All right, partner. Where this came from? This came from a point in my life where my life was out of control simply because my head was out of control. There were things going on inside my head, specifically worry. I was a master worrier. I was the best worrier I knew. And I could handle all these worries and all that worrying and all that constant churning of the mind made me kind of sick in my head. It stopped working well. So short story is I was learning some things from a teacher in India about maybe the sources of where this noise comes from. And since then, we've developed it into a program. And more recently, Bryan has taken that and written it into a beautiful book that we're working on getting published. But the gist of it is that there's stuff going on inside of me that isn't always in my best interest. There's stuff going on inside my head that doesn't always look out for the good in me. It's based in fear or worry or anxiety. And we all have it. We all have this chatter in our heads. And I found through my personal experience that by reducing that obnoxious chatter in my head, I'm living a much more present, mindful, peaceful existence.
Brilliant. Thank you. Bryan.
Well, we all have chatter. You might call it something else, but the voice in your head that you're always talking to, listening to, telling to shut up, we all have that voice rattling around in our head. It takes the form of fear, usually worry, and you can get gripped by it in ways that take you places you don't really need to go. We call them worry-go-rounds. When your mind starts worrying about something, and then that turns into another worry. Like your boss looked at you a little funny, made an offhand comment. You took that the wrong way, and you thought, "Oh my gosh, he doesn't like this about me." And that means I'm not going to get a good review and I'm going to lose my job. And then I can't afford my house and my kids' college tuition. They're going to live on the streets and be homeless. And all of a sudden you went from a funny look from your boss to homeless and living on the street. That's a vicious worry go around. Then there's fear. Fear of things that might go wrong, things that you did wrong in the past. There's money worries. There's all those things. And the book, The Chatter Relaxer, isn't about eliminating all of those because like telling a parent not to worry about their kids, that's not going to happen. So that's unrealistic. To not make plans, financial plans for the future, that's also unrealistic. But it's a degree that it's a matter of degrees. When that's running your life and it's running out of control, that's what the book can help you do, is take a look at what's going on inside your head. Because most of us don't. It just runs and it runs and it runs. So take a look. See what it is, and if it's things you really want to worry about or fears you want to have, by all means, worry about them and have fears about them. But we give you an opportunity to take a look at something, shine a light on it, and then decide for yourself if that's some things you want or some things you don't want. And if you can get rid of some of those worries and fears and anxieties and depression and whatever else it might be, you feel lighter, freer. It creates space in your life for new and better things to come in of your choosing, not of the outside world's insertion.
Brilliant. Thank you. We've got some very strange sounds going on.
Yes.
We really have. So I don't know whether it's picking up sounds from mics or whatever. But we keep our fingers crossed that we keep this going. Obviously, as we were talking before, and to a certain degree, both of you have sort of said to us what chatter means to you. But Patricia, what does chatter mean to you?
Aha. A never ending dialogue and commentary on what you're doing, thinking, and being. And an interesting thing I discovered a few years ago was if I actually stopped quickly in my conscious thinking, a voice would continue on, actually. And I realized at that point that it wasn't just a lot of what the Tommy and Brian are talking about. There is also, there can be dialogues coming in, and I am a channel, so I do receive stuff from other dimensions, as it were, as does David. And we can be keying into that as well. But I mean, I guess being a hypnotherapist for 30 years, one of the things that I came in to do was still my own mind. And to do that, I had to learn how to meditate and really go into visualization and calm the little monkey chatter mind who would be trying to distract you. And of course, it's coming from all the filters that you've experienced in life, conditioning, programming, negative situations. That's a judgment, but you know what I mean. What I used to call the what ifs. So in Glasgow, in Glaswegian Scottish, you could say go and doon the pan very quickly in a little spiral like that. Although I like your sort of roundabout analogy, it's very good. And yeah, it's. I really felt, having read the book, that you were offering a fresh and new and interesting way of really encouraging now people to go in and still the mind, which will encourage them really to begin to get into their hearts and bring more balance, more harmony into their lives, and straighten out their DNA, because the DNA gets all tangled up and tense when they go into that stressful way as well. So, yeah, chatter. It's just a constant review. Now, having said that, as I say, after all these years, I don't get so much of that. I'm really quite laid back now. And it took a long time, I can tell you that. So, yeah, but a wonderful concept, guys. I really enjoyed reading the book. And as I say, I felt it was fresh, and I'm sure you'll come up with a great title for it. Yeah, it's lovely to see you here.
David.
Yeah, when you popped the question, I thought, oh my goodness. And then I'm talking to myself in my head. And I thought, well, here we go. But I thought it was very interesting, because what I feel sometimes is we have that chatter, and maybe Brian or Tommy be able to comment on this. Maybe we'd have that chatter for a security for ourselves, because it's very difficult to, in this world, the way we've been brought up and everything, just to sit there and let nothing be. And then you go in, and if it's a worry or an anxiety, you could be on the merry-go-round, as you say, but it's a security, because you've got something there to talk about. Whether you get a right answer or not, you're chattering to yourself, and you've something to hold on to, where it's very difficult just to let go. And that's what you need to let go to get the answers and still all the mind. So that's what I found. Sometimes I don't like Patricia. I've kind of learnt to be a bit stiller in mind, but it's very, very in the past. It has been, my goodness me, I've got to keep talking as a security blanket.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, no, brilliant. And I love the fact that we all come from slightly different perspectives, because I suppose, yes, that I was in that place many years ago of worrying about what other people thought about me, sort of, etc. And that is really such a waste of time. And when you come to the understanding that why are you worrying about what other people think about you when they're not thinking about you, it's almost as if a weight lifted off my shoulders. Why am I worrying about this? And that, I suppose, that was where my biggest worry was in life, because of the insecurities in me. Now, with the chatter in my mind, it's just suddenly some weird negative thoughts come in for the most peculiar reasons, and it's just like, no, and they don't have any relevance to anything that's going on, and it's just like, where's this coming from? Is this my stuff? Is this other people's stuff? Because I think it's when you act as a channel, are you actually picking up other people's stuff around you? And so I get to that stage where it's, hang on, is this my stuff? And is this something I've got to deal with? Or is it somebody else's? Can it go away, please? Because stop with the negative thinking. And it doesn't, as I said, it doesn't bear any resemblance to anything that's going on in my life at the moment. On the whole, I seem to be pretty chilled and relaxed about stuff, because life is meant to be fun. You're meant to be living in the now and not worrying about the future or worrying about what's gone in the past, and you can't do anything about anyway. So sort of, yes, it's that. So, but what is that chatter? That chatter can be very different for everybody, and I hope that sort of what each has shared here has given you some sort of idea that it might be relevant, something that we've said might be relevant to what's going on in your life, because we are all different and we all have different experiences. So you talk about voices in your head, and I think we've all had them. And I did love what you put in the book about realizing that that voice that was in your head was actually your own voice, Tommy, but from a deeper perspective, a deeper knowing within yourself. So it wasn't an external voice. It was coming from deep within you. And I think, as Patricia said, some of that's actors' channels. So yes, we do. I don't get voices. Occasionally I get words in my head, but not a voice. So maybe it's sort of worth sharing a little about how the voices, yes, they can appear very negative and very worried, but they can also be really supportive and help us, bring us back to the present, to the now, and to things that are important in our life. So as this was actually your bit in the book, Tommy, do you want to sort of take that as a step forward? Because it brought you into the present.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep. Good.
I put the microphone on mute in case there was any feedback coming through. But yeah, lots of great discussion around the chatter and the voices in our head, or the words that come into our head, or the ideas that come in. And so one part of me wants to kind of talk about this. That a teacher once explained that we kind of have two minds, if we want to think of it this way. One's the working mind. And the working mind is what is in the moment, doing what it's doing and thinking what it's thinking and talking right now through me. But then they qualify and they call it the thinking mind. And the thinking mind, to me, is now the ego mind. And that's the chatter mind. And that's the other part of us that's stuck in the past or worried about the future. That's the one that's causing trouble. That's the one that's causing internal strife or confusion or doubt. And wherever you are in that realm of you're like an angel, a devil on one shoulder and an angel on another, maybe. Here's the truth of it. We all have a certain amount of noise in our head, and it's not ever going to go away unless we really meditate well. We meditate in the present moment. We quiet that chatter, and we enter that moment of pure silence. And then we sleep. And at night we have deep sleep cycles where our mind stops working too. But other than that, we have some degree of chatter going on, and chatter's not all bad. We're talking about the stuff that's annoying and nasty and not kind to ourselves. But if you think of a pretty basic chart, you got a green box on the bottom, you got a yellow box in the middle, and you have a red rectangle box on top of that. And what that represents from the bottom up is the amount of noise that's going on in your head at any one time. And most of us all have a baseline. So 20 years or so ago, my baseline was high in the yellow zone. My head was going all the time about worries. I would literally drink myself to sleep at night by about 11 o'clock. And at 3 a.m., the alcohol would wear off and I'd wake up and my head would start whirring again. And so I'm high in that yellow zone. Now that's a high stress. If you think about the amount of chatter as it increases, your correlated stress levels go up directly as well. Now, hanging out in the yellow zone, I think a lot of people on this planet live there. High noise in their head, lots of distractions, lots of worries about the future and fears about the things they did in the past. And you can kind of get by and live life, because I was living a good life then. But if you get tripped into the red zone is where you have no more space left. Your head is so full. My mom used to say, I've had it up to here with you kids. I can't take anymore, right? But literally, we can get over full in our heads. And that's where things go bad. That's where we knee-jerk react. We snap, we kick something, we scream, we lose it. And some people live in that red zone, and that can lead to severe depression and all sorts of anxiety and all sorts of other illnesses that leads to a pretty dark life. So it's the amount of chatter in our minds that we really talk about in the book and give people a way of reducing. So if you're living in the red zone, maybe you read the book and get out of it, and you're kind of hanging out in the low and the yellow zone, and you have a little more breathing space, right? You feel a little more space to be present, a little more ability to make clear-headed decisions, a little more ability to even meditate.
Yeah, no, brilliant. So Brian, your thoughts on, and yes, because hearing voices is one thing, but it's also that yes, it's the support to be more present.
Yes, and just to kind of go along with what Tommy said about having the voices in your head, and maybe, I don't want to say two of you in there, because that makes it sound a little, multiple personality disorder. But I think we can all relate to the runaway train of thoughts that we have, and what we call your inner sage, which is more your true being, and that's more like your gut instinct and who you really are inside, without all of the conditioning from society and expectations from people in your life. And we encourage you in the book to take a look at all of those busy thoughts that get you up into that red zone or high in the yellow zone, and see which ones we can reduce. And when you kind of do that, that allows your inner sage to grow, and you can hear that voice a little clearer. And that one has your best interest in heart. It truly knows what's best for you. And if you can live your life more from your inner sage and less from this chatter of all these things you got to do next week and what you did wrong last week and all that other stuff that's going on, if you can quiet that and let your inner sage blossom a little bit, speak a little louder, it just makes you feel like you're living your life and not somebody else's life. It makes you feel more in alignment with who you really are. And you're not all over the map like this. So that we just encourage people to figure that out, find who they really are, quiet all the other outside stuff, and live a more centered life of their choosing. We're not telling people what that should look like, because everybody's different, but we're encouraging people to find their inner sage and listen to it, maybe for the first time ever.
Yeah, brilliant. David, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of people maybe don't even realize that they're in this position of being so busy in their mind, and may not realize because they've been so let's say, accustomed to being busy from the outside influences, as well as their own. So it's really difficult, maybe sometimes, to get people to realize and let go of this busyness that they have, because sometimes it's their security. It's not always a healthy security. It's like Linus's blanket that he used to carry around that was dirty and filthy and, use to anybody, but it was there. And that's really hard to um, say to people, or advise people to, okay, come down. Oh no, this is the way I am. But they don't realize how unhealthy it is. So what you're doing is bringing that awareness, I feel, to a broader spectrum of people that also need to have a little bit of awareness, shall we say, of this is not normal, or I don't know whether normal is the right word, but this is not healthy for your body, for your mind, or your being on this planet.
Thank you, David. Patricia.
Well, yeah, and I agree with a lot of what David's saying there, but also, women, particularly of my age group, okay, we're in 70s, and we seem to have come through that era of having to deal with the low self-esteem. That's really what we brought in through our ancestral heritage. And we've really had to work hell of a hard to overcome that, because some of us had a very loud, turned up inner critic or inner judge who would be commentating on everything you did. And that, I think, pushed women into not being seen and not being heard. So that can be a very strong voice. I actually dealt mostly with women. It mirrored me, what I was dealing with. And I attracted a lot of women who were also dealing with that. And they would have this critic so destructive, really, bringing down their vibration, and such a pity. So to introduce new ways, because I'm not convinced that the younger women are really have overcome that completely. I think the older yins, as we say, have dealt with a lot, but there's still a ways to go, and the young ones need to really embrace a lot of the learnings that have been learned, put it like that. And, I go back, Louise Hay, I worked with Louise Hay, and, she did fantastic work, Love Your Life, Heal Your Life work, which was just wonderful. And she dealt a lot with that inner critic. And for me, as I say, with the hypnotherapy, I would help people identify all of that, where it was coming from. I would take them into past lives, all that kind of thing, and pull that kind of information out so that they could dialogue with that negative voice and love it away. You see, I mean, it's all got to be about love at the end of the day. And that was how we did it. And we got remarkable results with that. So, because that's one thing I would say is we really shouldn't have negative voices persistently talking. If there's anything like that going on, we have to wonder, is there entity, activity around you or whatever? And so always being, pulling in that positivity and the good, if you like, and focusing on that. So I don't really know where I'm going with that. I hope you're not all asleep. What am I talking about?
Well,
know what I mean?
If I can add something along the lines of what you just said, the negative thoughts. I think we all know that our human minds are more attuned to negative things than positive. And of course, that goes back to the beginning of time when you had to watch out for all the negative things that could kill you. Now, it's less necessary now, but we haven't evolved past that. And I just want to quote some statistics, and this is in the book, so you don't need to write them down, but the National Science Foundation here in the United States did a study on human thoughts. And the average person, and of course there's a lot of variety because, us humans are a varied bunch of individuals, but on average, we have between 60 and 80,000 thoughts per day. And if you do the math, that breaks down to about 3,000 an hour, or almost one thought every second. That's a lot of thoughts. And 95% of those thoughts are repetitive thoughts, meaning you've already thought that thought before. And 80% of your thoughts are negative, which means they're not helping you. So lest you think every one of your thoughts is a gem, it ain't. So you just really need to listen to your thoughts and think about, like David, you said, it might be a defense thing. Is it really that helpful? Do I really want to think that thought again? It's the same thing I thought 5 minutes ago, an hour, last week, 2 years ago. How many times do I want to keep going around and around with that? And Tricia, what you said, if it's negative, how much negative thoughts do you really want in your life? If you can reduce some of that, you're going to naturally create some space. Now you get something will fill that space. That's the nature of our heads and life. So now you can fill it with some things you actually would prefer to have in your life. So Tommy, tell them your fortune cookie. I love that one.
Usually you get a fortune cookie after, Chinese food or Thai food at the restaurant, and you're excited to read it, like, hey, you're going on a vacation soon, or hey, you're winning lottery numbers, or this. Well, this cookie said, when it comes to friends, the voice in your head is rarely one of them. I still have that freaking fortune cookie. It kind of launched. It happened early on when I was putting the program together, and it's one of the slides in the class notes. And Tricia, first off, thank you for living your life's purpose and helping the women of this planet live with more peace and from a more heart-centric viewpoint, and less in their heads and less in the nasty heads that we're all born. Everybody's born a nice fresh baby, and so it's society and our life that shapes us and puts this. I reduce everything, all of our suffering. I reduce it down to this chatter in our heads, the negative chatter, and it's put there. No fault of our own. Things happen early on in life. David, you said earlier that it's a blanket. Yeah, we put some of these voices in place to protect us from things that happen to us. And all we're recommending is you can go back now with some awareness and see if those voices and those identities that you created, those shadows or those, what are some of the other terms we use for them, how if they're still useful for you or if they're still necessary. And so, Tricia, what you were saying is it was hard to like decipher and figure out. I had a psychiatrist tell me once. I asked him, I said, what's going on inside of my head that I can't think straight? And he goes, the head's a complicated thing. We don't know. And he goes, all we do is diagnose and medicate. A psychiatrist told me this, as they're educated in America, at least still. They just go down a checklist and say, yep, you've got that. Okay. And they stamp your forehead with bipolar. They stamp your forehead with schizophrenia. Or they stamp your forehead with something else. The chatter relaxer, the second half of it, demystifies that mind-boggling thoughts. And as I talked about green zone, yellow zone, red zone as the quantity of chatter, if you slice that into horizontals, there's fear chatter, there's desire-based chatter, there's worry-based chatter, there's conditional relationship-based chatter, there's competition and comparison chatter, there's me as the important person in life, my ego chatter, and then there's overall like things aren't going my way, rainy parade day chatter. And so as you work, each of us has different degrees of each of those 7 categories, basic categories, but it's 7 basic categories. So it takes this monumental, like, I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know why I'm sick, and we don't know what's wrong with you. And it kind of logically breaks it down into 7 categories that now you can go in and clearly by yourself analyze, determine if you've got that bad or not. Like I had worry bad. And then there's exercises in the book to help you reduce that chatter silo, that column of chatter. And overall, then your overall chatter levels come down. So yeah, demystifying the chatter is a big plus of what this is bringing to people.
Going back to the negative thoughts, etc. My younger sister's done loads of research on different things, and there are apparently over 6,000 negative words in the dictionary to 2,000 positive words.
I believe it.
How much of a chance do we stand? And one of the things I try to do is try and get rid of the negative terminology. The I want, the I need. The I want leaves you with the I wanting. The I need leaves you with the needing. How we phrase things, bearing in mind the I am, the power behind that. That's what the universe hears, and saying I don't want doesn't help because it doesn't see the negative. It just sees the want bit again. And it's supporting ourselves to be able to rephrase things into the positive, where it's so easy to phrase things negatively. Somebody says to you, what would you like to do? Yeah, especially when it came to me, sort of, I hated the job I was doing. I didn't know. I had no idea. I just didn't want to be doing what I was doing. And all I could answer was, I don't want to be doing this. I could answer with the don't wants rather than the do wants, because that seems to be how we hear everybody phrase things around us. And that's a battle to start with, is to be able to bring us back into the now. It's being able to phrase things with the positive. What would you like? And if somebody says to me, what do you want? The answer's nothing, because I was brought up with I wants, don't get. So sort of, but it is what's gone on in your upbringing. What are the things that have really shaped you? And this actually comes back to a comment you made about being grateful for the difficult times in your life, Brian, because I couldn't agree more. I'm very grateful for mine. So, but that, because find so much positive from that, can't we? That can actually help then calm the mind.
Yes. And when we talk to people about this or work with them, they can feel overwhelmed with all the negativity around them or the negativity in their own head. And it can feel daunting to make that shift to a more lighter, freer, more positive way of living and actually being. And we don't disagree with that. It can be a challenge. But we tell people, imagine a ship at sea. If you turn that ship at sea just 1 degree, you're not likely going to notice anything even changed. But many miles down the road, I know that 50 miles down the ocean, you're going to be in a vastly different place, even with a little 1 degree shift. So if all you can do is just simply become aware and notice your negative thoughts or the negativity around you or the repeating of the habits that you really don't want to do anymore, just becoming aware is the first step, that first 1 degree. So that's the first step we encourage people to become aware of that. And once they become aware of it, and then you can catch yourself the next time you do it. Now you might fall back in the same trap again, but at least you became aware of it. So then when you catch it again, maybe you can stay out of the trap a little bit longer. And then the third time, maybe you can stay out a little bit longer. And eventually you can stay out of the trap.
Yeah, no, excellent. David, do you want to say something?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, and I don't know who can answer this, but I think, I do the work I do now, which I'd never be without. But before, I was like in a corporate world, and you go for your training courses and everything else, and they say, "Oh, put down all your positive attributes and put all your negative attributes, as an exercise, and your positive attributes are here and your negative attributes are down here." And I don't know whether it's just because we are programmed that way, or as we grow up, oh, you can't walk that, you're not tall enough to do that, you're not big enough to walk down that road or whatever. And I think that sticks with us longer than we realize. And then when we come to being ourselves, we've hidden ourselves under so much layers, we don't know who we are or what we want. So we can be really confused in the mind, especially if we haven't got anybody we can speak to or bring it out, or something that's going on with us personally, and you think, oh, what's going on? So, that kind of makes the mind even busier, I think, on both those sides. So it's really interesting to see that the work and the way you're bringing it through is really making us all aware we have got a shift, even that small, because we've been programmed, for want of a better word, into one way of thinking about ourselves. And we have to get out of that, because we're never going to live in this moment and we will miss half our lives.
Only half?
2/3 then. Maybe a bit more on my case.
Patricia, do you want to share any thoughts?
Something came in that's just as quickly gone out again. Yes, I agree with David in a lot of what he's saying there, really. I like the concept you have of sort of building up, by the way, up, Tommy, I think it was you was talking about it, going up with all the different colours and things like that. I'm wondering if that correlates perhaps with chakras, things like that. I guess I come to all of this from a sort of esoteric background as well. So, I mean, I just love all this work. I've always been very conscious of the power of the spoken word. I've always been very careful. I was a professional singer for many years, and that was very important, enunciation and all that carry on. But I went to stuff from the early 80s about positive thinking and all that kind of thing. And I mean, Sarah, when it comes to the community of divine love, and I'm putting up all those affirmations for everybody to be repeating, I mean, that is just bread and butter to me, and getting people focused into that and growing that aspect of themselves, so that eventually, when they really keep focused on that, the other stuff will just very gradually die away. So that's one aspect. And yeah, I'm sure more stuff will come in as we're speaking. There was something came in and it went out. I do apologise. I think it was the sight of you, Tommy, just disappearing there for a minute. I thought you'd fallen off your chair. I thought, my goodness.
Just working on my ambiance. There was sunlight coming in that was a little too shiny in my face. But if I may, you both made beautiful points, and almost like you've asked some questions of the universe. Part of this, and the negative part of it, right? That maybe 80% of our input is negative, or 80% of the conditioning is negative. David, you touched upon this, but it is, I call it the human race that we're born into. When you're a baby, and even before you're born, you're hearing and picking up energy from the outside, whether it's sound energy or vibrations or anger. We can sense that stuff. Tricia, pay attention to the number of types of chatter that I mentioned, because you're spot on in your esoteric analysis of the situation. We're born into this human race. This race is all, everybody's out here working with these uncontrolled minds, with all this chatter in their head. Our teachers have chatter in their head. Our parents have chatter in their head. Our religious leaders have chatter in their head. And it's not all, like Brian said, it's not all gems. It's not all cheery. So we're just born into the situation. So it's not our fault, but we take it on. And Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements, he called it domestication. He put a pretty harsh word around it, but it's conditioning. And we're told how to behave, what to say, what not to say, how to feel, what not to feel. And that's what we grow up in. And that is, all that stuff is the source, the base, the root cause of the chatter in our head. Now, we also flip this a little bit and talk about negative, positive. That's energy. Now we're talking vibration levels, right? So this negative chatter that we have is lowering our vibration, our inner vibration. We get rid of that negative chatter, and naturally what's there is our inner sage, as we call it, or our higher self, or our whatever it is you call that part of yourself that is your intuition, your inner knowing, your inner self. And so you kind of start to see how this all fits together, right? How the chatter is a byproduct of the society that we're born into, that everybody has it. It's mostly negative, the stuff that we want to like look at and decide if we want to hang on to it anymore. And it's a lower vibration energy frequency, which you all understand through sound healing and the such, and all the other things that you're doing to try to raise the vibration of a situation. We are naturally a high vibrating, high vibrational entity, this body, mind, spirit configuration. And maybe Brian, you can start maybe talk a little bit about the bricks in the wall, the 7 bricks. I kind of mentioned them, but we all have these bricks in the wall. If you want to get back to a Pink Floyd reference, and that blocks what's naturally underneath us. So at some point, I'd like to talk about what's underneath those seven bricks, those 7 blocks, those 7 sources of the negative energy, vibration, chatter.
Well, a lot of it is that conditioning by society, and it starts very, very, very young. Your parents or your caregivers start, and then through no fault of their own, it's just the way they were raised, and they have to also give you guidance. So you start getting the good boy, good girl, bad boy, bad girl thing at a very young age. And you go to school and you start getting well, you're good at math, or you're good at reading, or you're the athletic one, or you're the one who can sing. It's just starts piling on at a very young age. And of course, when you're very young, you don't really understand. You just take all that on. You don't have the mental wherewithal to understand that and to take it in a healthier way. You just take it on as that's who you are. Oh, I'm bad at this, or I'm good at that. And you carry that with you the rest of your life frequently. So we call those limiting boxes. You get that feeling that you aren't good enough in some area, many areas, and you start carrying that around, then you're just lugging that weight around in your backpack of life, and it's holding you down, holding you back. So we just give people some tools to take a look in their backpack. What are the rocks that you're carrying around? What are you bad at? What are you good at? You've been labeled like this, and do you really want to? Is it really true? Somebody told you that when you were in 3rd grade. Is that really true? Do you still believe that? Would you like to take a look at that? Shine a flashlight, antiseptic light on it, and see if it's really something you want to carry around and identify with. And if it is, great, keep doing it. If that works for you, if it protects you or serves you, you don't like the service word, but if it serves you, do it. We just give people an opportunity to look at things they may not have looked at since they were, if ever, and then they can live their own truer life as defined by them. Again, we're not telling people how they should live their life. We're just giving them some tools so they can look at their own life, because they know it better than we do, and they can make some decisions to better align themselves with the life they want to live. You got one shot at it, so it's your best one.
No, excellent. I spent some time working with adults with learning difficulties, and the one thing that really came to mind for me was we are all different. Whose normal is it? What is normal? Who decides what is normal? Your normal's not mine. Is not. All our normals are different. And I was talking to one of the ladies I was working with, and it was just like and I don't like the us and them. I really don't. But as a early teens, my parents had a small hotel, and we actually had a group. It was called mentally handicapped in those days. Very definitely not a PC term anymore. But I remember thinking, who's the one with the handicap? This group of ladies were being looked after by the nuns. They were being fed, they were being clothed, they were on holiday, they were being taken care of. They didn't have to worry about anything. And that, I was getting to the stage of, I was doing paper rounds, and then I was going to go out to work. I'd got my O levels to do, and et cetera, as a teenager. And I thought, who's got the handicap, them or us? And I actually decided we'd got the handicap. But I also believe that everybody has their own strengths. You can put the word weaknesses in there if you wish to, but we have our strengths, and we should be honoring those strengths. It doesn't matter what our weaknesses are. They aren't for us for this lifetime. It's what are our strengths? What do we enjoy? What are we good at? They are the things we should be concentrating on. So you were commenting, David, about sort of any answers to the question about sort of you shouldn't be going down that road or that road or that road you're not good enough for. That's not because you're not good enough. It's because that's, for me, that is because that's not meant for you for this life. And it's taking it, I suppose, into the more the higher vibrational thinking of what speaks to you, what is calling you, and you can really help to quiet your mind if you're staying away from those things that people keep telling you you're not good at. There are loads of things I'm not good at. But then there are other things that I really love, and I don't care if I'm good at them or not, because I actually enjoy them. So, and so that's about the vibration of you. What is speaking to you? And those are the things that you are here for. And if it's supporting people to let go of that monkey mind, that worry, and helping people to live for today in what speaks to them. So who would like to comment? Because I know you're talking about wanting to talk more about the wall, Tommy, but I didn't know whether there was more to add to that sort of.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on that, because you're talking energy, vibration, higher frequency, and tie back to what Brian said earlier about what we call the inner sage. It's your inner sage that when that is in a position of presence and availability, that's when you feel good. That's when you're on purpose. That's when you're doing what you're here to do. The chatter obviously can, as David said, I was buried with chatter up to here. I couldn't think straight. I was in a place where it was dark, and I was so confused in my head. I couldn't hear my inner sage talk. We draw this little picture out in the class that we teach, and just imagine like a Pillsbury Doughboy or Doughgirl, very simple arms and legs. And this is going to get into the law of attraction. Now, law of attraction is an energy law, and in this law of attraction, like attracts like. Love attracts love. Hate attracts hate. We see that evident in the world. So if your head and your heart have been corrupted by society, and you're primarily negative, a negative sign up here, like a negative chatter dominates the positive chatter, and your heart is shut down, or negative energy is dominating that aspect of you, guess what? That's what you're attracting. You're like a magnet. And so what you're saying Sara, is that, do what you're good at, but we have to clear out those attractive energies that are attracting what we don't want. That's what's not good for us. And so again, as Brian said, we lay it out there for what are those negative attractors? What's blocking your heart energy? What's blocking your thought energy? What's blocking your root energy? What's blocking your safety? What's blocking your contentment? What's blocking your chi, your inner strength? What's blocking your love? What's blocking your truth? What's blocking your thoughts? And what's blocking your connection? That's what those 7 categories of chatter do, is set that free. And we call them freedom rings. What we all have are these freedom rings. Again, going back to the seven count of chakras, it's exactly what we're talking about, is that energy of those centers of energy that we have in ourselves, and whether they're blocked with negativity and boxes and bricks, or whether they're open to express and interact and be in the moment.
Brian, have you got anything you'd like to add?
Well, there's a lot there. So those limiting boxes, we talk about those quite a bit in the book. because whatever's going on in somebody's life, we give them some tools to look at that, and we help them figure out how that limits them. So once they kind of get a sense of that, we give them some tools to just crack open that limiting box just a little bit, that 1 degree, let a little light in. And that little bit of light can then, once that box crack opens, that little bit of light shines in, then what tends to happen is the box can open more quickly or widely, and more light can come in, and you get more positive energy and feedback, and you can live life more from your inner sage as a natural function of opening up these limiting boxes that you've been constrained in, usually because of outside influences and the conditioning by your upbringing and society or the news that you're listening to. And if you just take a look at all that stuff and decide that, I don't really want to live my life from that limitation anymore. By removing the negativity of those limiting boxes, you automatically become a more positive oriented being, which attracts more positive energy your way, and then it snowballs and it can grow. So you just need a little start. So this book is kind of a kick in the pants.
David, have you got anything you want to add?
I think it's, I'm not saying this is a simple process you're bringing forward, but you're making this work accessible for so many people. And I really feel it's going to help so many people, as you said, Brian, just that slight little bit of light that some people can't see is really going to make a difference. It really is. And so many people are in a place where they can't even link into that because of the situation they find themselves in, their environment, whatever it is. And this process that you brought forward is really, I feel, going to help to open up so many avenues for people. And of course, that raises the vibration, not only of yourself, but of everything around you. And that can only be good, not just for the individual, but for the world as a whole.
No, you're right. I mean, Tommy and I have come from places where this work helps. So we know it works. Personally, I was in a very dark place and did this work. And I know firsthand it works. And like you said, it's not necessarily the easiest. You have to dig deep, and you're going to find some weeds when you go through your own personal little garden. But sometimes it's time for those weeds to be ripped out by the roots. And so anyway, it worked. It worked for me, which is why I'm such a profound advocate for people at least trying. If somebody listening to this is in such a dark place they can't see a ray of sunshine, give it a try. Give it a try. Again, I was in such a dark place. I stood toe-to-toe with the devil and did my 15 rounds. And the work that Tommy laid out in this program helped me immensely. So I encourage people to give it a try.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
I wish it was around a few years ago, because sometimes I come through that myself in various forms, and I have myself kind of my tools to how to do it, but have something that would have supported me perhaps in not being self up so much, getting through things and making it hard work. This would have been really a great tool to have, so I'm sure it's going to work for so many people. I really am.
Patricia.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think anything that helps people take back their personal power, isn't it? And because the level of programming that's been pumped onto this planet is legion, and it really does affect the psyche of every soul on the planet. And we really need to keep bringing this positivity, you know, the ways of helping to deal with whatever the situation is. And I mean, I could see a lot of that work coming into perhaps drug programs or the alcohol programs, that kind of thing. And I'm just wondering, you know, we're talking about 7 chakras, but we could go a lot further than that, Tommy. We could be going right down into the heart of Mother Earth and right into the heart and soul of the cosmos above. You know, I mean, you could really expand that to be 2 or 3. You could be expanding it into new territory kind of thing. So there's a lot of scope. And yeah, it's well done. Yeah. And I did have something else to say. It came back in. Bear with me. It was about the programming and the fear that they've introduced, you know, around all the pandemic, all that kind of thing. They just induced fear. And, you know, a lot of you, I'm still doing a bit of therapy, I'm mostly retired, but you know, the number of people that have really, really been suffering with anxiety and worry and worse, and having to help them deal with that has just been incredible. So, you know, we're the light, you're the light. We need to keep working and affirming our I am presence. We're one with every I am presence on this planet, and keep feeding the divine light in. You're doing a great job of that, and it's been lovely to hear the mechanics, if you like, of what you're offering, and it's going to change a lot of lives. The chink of light, yes. There's a title for a book, Chink of Light. No.
There's one thing I just want to tie this all up and tie it back to the topic, right? It's presence without chatter. And just to connect this dot, because connecting dots in some of these esoteric terms, but once you connect it, it's like light bulb maybe goes off. Tricia, you just talked about being present. And in order for us to do our work as light bringers on this planet, in whatever shape or flavor you come as, we need to do it in the present moment, right? We're not doing it in the future, and we're not doing it in the past. Anytime we have chatter, it's the future or the past. That's why meditation, when you get your head quiet, you have no chatter, you're in the moment. That's why when we practice the jeeping, which we can't get into today, we'll talk about another time, we're in the moment. And it's in that moment that is where the silence is. And it's in that silence, freedom from that negative chatter, the silence, is where your true connection to everything is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I was going to say, we are sort of coming up very much on time. So I didn't know that sort of Tommy and Brian, whether there was anything else, because I know you've just commented about bringing it all back. Yes. Whether there's anything else you wanted to add before we drew the program to a close.
I will thank all of you for your lifelong commitment to this mission and to what we're doing here on this planet. We are with you in this. We're all working towards the same goal of a more loving, peaceful planet here on Earth. And thank you for being a big part of this for your whole lives. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Bless you, all three of you.
Well, thank you to both of you. Folks, there is going to be a website. We will put that up as soon as they tell me it's live. But in the meantime, if you do want to connect with David and with Tommy and Brian, please, well, if you want to contact, we'll put the websites up for Patricia, David and myself, but with Tommy and Brian, please, there is on the Gift of Healing TV website a contact page. On that, you can say who you would like to be in touch with. I will make sure personally that if you do put a message up there for them before the website goes under the video on YouTube, I will make sure that message gets to them. So please. And once the book is available, I ask them to also let me know so that I can put a link. But obviously, they are literally just starting to talk to a publisher. So that's not going to happen at the moment. But it depends when you watch this. the joy is this video is going to be available for as long as people want to find it, or wish to find it, I should say, using that positive terminology. So thank you to my co-hosts and to Tommy and to Brian for joining us for this program this evening here in the UK, this morning or early afternoon in the States. It has been a real pleasure to have you. Thank you for a brilliant share. And sort of maybe we'll see you again sometime on the program. It would be great to sort of maybe take it a step further. Next week, I'm joined by Paul Craddock, and we're going to be talking about the ancient art of dowsing and how it can help your health. And I know our next program, today's conversation, we're still waiting for that information, but we will be back with another program, today's conversation, on the 12th.
We're working on it.
I know. So, but sadly, I haven't got that information for you for now. But 5th of April, there will be a meditation, Play in the Inner Child, which I will be sharing with you. So in the meantime, folks, thank you to our guests and my co-hosts. Take care, be safe, stay well. Namaste.
Namaste, and thank you, Sarah. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.